Michigan boosters prepared to spend $4 million to get Bryce Underwood to flip from LSU. Oh, we got to talk about this. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. Today's show brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, it is game week, y'all. LSU Ole Miss. We're going to delve into that. Some of the early lines. What are the odds makers saying? A quick early week thought on LSU Ole Miss. Could the Tigers have another flip for the class of 2025 coming? An official visitor this weekend in Baton Rouge. Talk about him in just a quick second. But I got to start with this. Last week, Dave Portnoy, founder, CEO of Barstool, who's worth an estimated $150 million, on one of the Barstool platforms, said, by the way, Portnoy is a Michigan alum, if you're not familiar. Portnoy said on his platform, we talked about it here, that he would be willing to be Michigan's quarterback guy. He would be willing to fork over seven figures annually to bring a top quarterback to Michigan, be it Portal, be it a high school player, whomever that may be. Well, he said he would go from $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, as much as $3 million per year for a quarterback. And when there's a guy who's worth nine figures saying that, you listen, especially whenever it would be really good business for his business. So I don't doubt that Dave Portnoy would be willing to spend that money annually, because you could say he's worth 150 and think, well, he couldn't afford that year after year after year. But the truth is, it's not like his cash flow is stopping. He's making more money every year. Anyway, and it would be great for Barstool as well. Great notoriety, all that sort of stuff. Well, our buddy Shea Dixon was on our show last week and sort of poo-pooed it a little bit. I don't want to paraphrase what Shea said, but the scuttle seems to be that would be more in the transfer portal market instead of the freshman quarterback, the high school market. And also, one of the caveats Portnoy said was that he would get to handpick the player, and there's no coach ever that would allow a booster to handpick a player, especially a quarterback at that. So fast forward, and this conversation has been rebirthed a bit, because there's a Michigan YouTuber named James Yoder who he went on his YouTube platform and then clipped it and put it on social media, and he upped the ante. Just give a listen.
This time he says this: I talked to Sharon. This was today. I talked to him. I have his number. We talked. He told me to get one guy I've got to talk to, right? This is key. He told me the one guy I've got to talk to, I've not talked to that person. I will, and then we will see, right? Sharon gave me one name, right? And I haven't talked to him yet. I'm going to talk to him, right? And so it's got to be Bryce Underwood. But let's up the ante here, folks, right? If Portnoy goes to $3 million, right? If he taps out, for his $3 million, we will add $1 million to bring it up to $4 million. It comes with strings attached. That is the offer to Bryce Underwood. If Portnoy can go to 3, we'll commit to 1, as long as the strings, of course, the NIL, the name, image, likeness, is that we do the Bryce Underwood Show, your exclusive media rights here on YouTube. You're not doing any interviews with the blog boys. You're doing all your interviews here on the Michigan Football Report.
Okay. All right, there's a lot to unpack here. Very candidly, there's part of me that, and by the way, that is courtesy of James T. Yoder. He's on on Twitter, X at James Yoder. And the YouTube channel is youtube.com/chatsportstv. And youtube.com/Michigan TV. I want to make sure that I'm giving attribution that's directly from him. youtube.com/Michigan TV. I want to make sure I'm giving full attribution. Okay, a couple things. I think this guy is actually brilliant. Because unless if he's a trust fund baby, ain't no stinking way that guy can pony up $1 million for Bryce Underwood. Let me be very clear about something, okay? I'm taking my headphones out. Y'all watching, y'all see me do that. You listen and you didn't just see that. Okay. James Yoder. Now, Dave Portnoy got millions. Dave Portnoy can afford it. James Yoder has 15,000 followers on Twitter. All right. Y'all, I'm just little old me in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I got 72.4 thousand followers on Twitter. I got 5 times. I ain't even good at math. I stink at math. I got 5 times as many followers as that guy does. Let's follow James Yoder to his Michigan YouTube channel. All right, youtube.com/Michigan TV. He's got 32.7 thousand subscribers. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I do a daily radio show. We clip my radio show and put it on different YouTube channels, AFR, LSU, AFR, Saints, depending on the content. Combined, those channels have nearly 70,000 subs. He's got 32.7. So I got 5 times as many Twitter followers and minimum double, because we ain't even counting Locked on LSU and my 104.5 ESPN channel all the way. Minimum double, more than that, the YouTube followers I got. Let me tell you something straight up. I make a good living. I'm the good Lord has blessed me. I make a good living. I've done a successful radio show for 15 years. I got lots of sponsors that are very generous. I'm fortunate enough to do Locked on LSU, and so many of you listen or watch every single day, and I'm grateful. I'm a part owner of a roofing company. I do well. By the average American standard, I do well, and I'm very, very blessed. I'm spending $1 million for Bryce Underwood or anybody. The only way, and believe me, I know, I live in this world. What YouTube CPMs are, that's cost per thousand, what you make doing this, sort of like with that guy's following, the only way James Yoder is doling out $1 million to Bryce Underwood, the only way is if he's a trust fund baby. That guy got it from somewhere else. Rich daddy, maybe that's the case. Maybe his daddy is Steve Jobs. I don't know. Maybe he's Yoder and some famous rich German people from 100, 200 years ago. Man, that's the only way. That dude ain't made his money in media. I'll tell you that much. I know enough about this business to know what things cost, and that guy with his following ain't nowhere near being able to give $1 million to Bryce Underwood. So maybe he's brilliant. Maybe he's brilliant because he's getting a lot of people talking about him. That video, by the way, where he talked about paying Bryce Underwood is at 44,000 views. The video after that, 4,800. The one after that, 6,400. The one before that, 10,000. Before that, 7,400. The point is, this dude's making, I don't know, maybe 3-4 G's a month on YouTube AdSense money. Maybe add some sponsors on top of that, add a few thousand more. Bottom line is, that guy ain't making $1 million doing media. Not even close to it. And not nearly enough to pay Bryce Underwood $1 million. Maybe he's super rich, and if he is, good on him. God bless you. However you made it, I love the American dream. But the bottom line is, that guy, I think he's doing it for attention. He's doing it for marketing purposes because people like me are talking about him, so it may be brilliant. Now, let me tell you this other part about it. LSU didn't get the commitment of Bryce Underwood without a healthy NIL deal, okay? Bryce Underwood, no doubt, is getting a very healthy NIL offer from LSU's collective. Make no mistake about it, okay? The other part of it, as Bryce Underwood has said openly many times, is that he wants to come to LSU to be developed because he is looking at the long-term perspective, not necessarily just what he can make in NIL in college. It's what can he make in the NFL because of his development in college. And it ain't hard to look at what Joe Sloan did with Jaden Daniels and turned him from a guy that was an inaccurate downfield passer, a guy that heading into his final year was maybe a day 3 type quarterback, to the number 2 pick in the draft, $30+ million contract, and an absolutely torrid start to his NFL career. Oh, by the way, the University of Michigan, if you look at them offensively right now in the 2024 football season, Michigan is 129th in passing offense. You know how many teams are in the FBS? 133. Michigan is 129 out of 133 in passing offense. Only ULM, New Mexico State, Army, and Air Force are worse at throwing the football than Michigan. That is why Bryce Underwood is going to end up at LSU. And also, if I could maybe pass a friendly piece of advice to James Yoder, in the first 33 seconds of that clip we played, 7 times he said the word right. If you're saying the word right every 4 seconds, you're going to annoy the hell out of your audience. They sure as hell ain't going to help you pay $1 million for a quarterback. So take some speech lessons as well. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. I'm sure y'all like that one. Hey, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn, look, it's not just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, more than 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So, as we talk about the future of LSU, this weekend was a significant one for a position that continues to be LSU's weakest in this 2024 football season. Tigers hosted 10 official visitors on their open date weekend. 9 of the 10 are already LSU commits, but there's one that's committed elsewhere. And that is Jacob Bradford out of Catholic High in Baton Rouge, who is currently committed to Houston of the Big 12. Now, Bradford is a very good prospect, okay? But it's worth mentioning when we talk about Jacob Bradford that his brother, Blaine Bradford, is a 5-star and the number 1 safety in the country for the class of 2026. So Jacob, who we're talking about, is a high school senior. His brother, the 5-star number 1 safety, is a high school junior. But Blaine doesn't necessarily automatically get Jacob Bradford an offer. The truth is, Jacob Bradford has a lot of big-time offers. This isn't a Leonard Fournette situation. Leonard Fournette was not Leonard and had no business playing in the SEC. Could have been a college running back, just not at LSU. Jacob Bradford is the type of player that LSU has taken over the years. The 3-star that is a local guy that over the course of his time and continues to develop, continues to get better and better and better and becomes a stud. By the way, it's also worth mentioning that depending on which scouting service you subscribe to, Jacob Bradford is actually a 4-star. So in the composite, he is a 4-star safety. He's number 388 overall, the number 36 safety in the country, and he's the 14th best player in Louisiana. By the way, you currently have 2 safeties committed for 2025. You've got Jace Thomas, who's number 333 nationally, and CJ Jim Coyley, who's listed as a linebacker but projects as a safety at 407. So Jace Thomas, 333, Jacob Bradford's 388. They're very comparable football players. Jacob Bradford, by the way, is committed to Houston, but has offers from LSU, Georgia Tech, Arizona State, Texas Tech, Vanderbilt, Marshall. He's got Power 4 offers. He's just committed to Houston and happens to have a brother that's a 5-star. So the reason I bring this up is because after his official visit this weekend, Steve Wiltfong, who's a national recruiting analyst for On3, changed his projection to LSU, that Bradford would flip from Houston to LSU. And I think that makes a ton of sense. Again, Jacob Bradford plays high school ball in Baton Rouge at Catholic High. It's the same program. Many of you know I went to Catholic High, but it's the same program that has produced guys like Darius Geis, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Emory Jones, Shelton Sampson, Blaine Bradford, who, of course, is a 2026 target. Now, potentially Jacob Bradford as well. And that's just scratching the surface of the prospects from Catholic High who have gone to LSU. And I've said it many times. Whether you love my alma mater or not, it's irrelevant. There's a lot of people in Baton Rouge who don't like Catholic High, and that's okay. But the one thing we can agree on is you better hope that pipeline from Hearthstone Drive continues right over to Dalrymple to the LSU football ops, because Catholic produces a ton of talent in Baton Rouge, and you better get them all to stay home. I'll say this as well, and we've talked about it a lot here on the show, but it's very clear that LSU on the interior of the defensive line is recruited well, and they are developing. Their ends are very good. Not by comparison, they're just very good. And they've recruited well there as well. Gabriel Afford, Kalaj Cobbins, Deshaun Womack, guys you'd be very excited about for the future. At linebacker, yes. Whit Weeks, some of the young guys who are coming behind him with Xavier Atkins, Devon Keys. You've got good players at those levels. And I would say at corner, they've recruited and developed well also. They're not great there. But Ashton Sampson is getting better. PJ Woodland's playing as a freshman. You got some good players there and some really good ones in the pipeline with DJ Pickett, 5-star safety, number one cornerback in the country for next year. You got to get better. You got to get better at safety. And when you look at next year, okay, just look at the roster for next year. Major Burns and Sage Ryan are out of eligibility. They'll be gone. Jordan Gilbert could come back for a 5th collegiate season. We'll see what he elects to do. Kylan Jackson, Deshaun Spears, Jordan Allen, Joel Rogers, Austin Osbury, all could be back. It's a lot of bodies, but not a lot of experience yet. If Gilbert comes back and Spears comes back and Allen comes back, that's all. So those are your starters next year. But you got Jace Thomas and CJ Jim Coyley committed right now. You need to build your numbers. And I'm going to give you an example with Jacob Bradford that'll make sense from a different position. The example is a guy like Lloyd Cushenberry. Lloyd Cushenberry was a 3-star from Dutchtown. He was the last guy in the class on signing day. It was basically one of those things when you're a hard cap at 25, you wait and see, do we have room for you on signing day? And they did. And Cushenberry waited for 3 years for his chance to play. He grew and developed within the program, and by the time it was his turn, he became a 2-year starter, became a 4th-round draft pick, and is now the highest-paid center in the NFL. Guys develop. And Brian Kelly said it over and over again. He wants guys, he wants to recruit and develop and supplement through the portal. They want to build his roster through the portal. Well, a guy like Jacob Bradford is exactly the guy you want. The guy you're going to get into your program, not going to start as a freshman or maybe even as a sophomore. But by the time he gets to be a developed second, third, fourth year player, he's going to be a talented, smart, developed young guy that's going to help you win football games. I would love it if they flip him. Could be the next prospect in the class of 2025. Okay, y'all, enough about the future. The present is LSU Ole Miss. It's game week. So what are the experts saying about the Tigers and the Rebs? You'll hear it next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. As we mentioned, y'all, it's LSU Ole Miss week. Maybe you're trying to be in that number over in Death Valley. Don't have your tickets yet? Make sure you download Game Time. If you haven't done it yet, you got to download it. If you've used other ticketing apps, make sure you have Game Time. There's a few features that make Game Time completely unique, different from all the others. I love the all-in pricing. Now, you got to turn that feature on. You toggle, it'll show you the total up front. So there's no surprise fees at checkout. I love the panoramic seat views. You can choose your seat and you will see a panoramic view from your seat, so you don't have to guess what it will look like from your seat when you're actually sitting there. Also, they guarantee the lowest price. At Game Time, their lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference when you buy tickets from Game Time. Y'all take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Use Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem with the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, y'all, it is LSU and Ole Miss. It is game week. The latest rankings are out. LSU didn't really budge in the AP, number 13. They're 10 in the coaches. Ole Miss, number 9 in the AP poll. So a top 10 Ole Miss team is coming to Baton Rouge. For what it's worth, our partners over at FanDuel have Ole Miss a 3.5-point favorite. Now, there are other odds makers who have that number a little lower. I've seen it 2.5. Actually, had down to 1.5 as well after Ole Miss struggled and lost to Kentucky. But Ole Miss, 3.5-point favorite in Baton Rouge. ESPN's FPI gives Ole Miss a 67.8% chance of winning the game. So about 2 out of 3 chance of winning the game. I'll tell you this, and I'm going to wait until the end of the week to give you my pick on this game. And 2 years ago, when Ole Miss came to Baton Rouge, I angered a lot of Ole Miss fans. So if you remember, Ole Miss was 7-0, and they were ranked in the top 10 in the country. And on Monday of that week, I very boldly and declaratively stated that LSU was going to beat Ole Miss. Didn't even need to wait till Friday. LSU was winning the football game. Boy, there were a lot of Ole Miss fans that were not happy with me, how I could be so dismissive of the Rebels. And if you remember that game, it came in, Ole Miss started fast, and then Harold Perkins kind of took over, and LSU just ended up wiping the floor with Ole Miss. And the truth is that Ole Miss team was a fraud. That Ole Miss team was a lot like this Missouri team this year. A team that was undefeated, but really you look and you go, what have they done? And then they faced a real test, and they got wiped like Missouri did this week, losing 41-10 at Texas A&M. That's how I felt about that Ole Miss team. It's not how I feel about this Ole Miss team. I think this is a good Ole Miss team. You have a veteran quarterback in Jackson Dart. You have talented skill guys on the offensive side. You recruited and supplemented in the portal very well defensively. J.J. Pegues is a very good defensive lineman. You added Walter Nolan from Texas A&M. That's a good team. It's a really good team. That's also a good team that lost on its home field to Kentucky. A physical team out-physicaled them. That's also a team that this weekend went to South Carolina and scored 27 points. They were on an historic pace in the first month of the season. And then they started playing conference games, and their averages have dropped dramatically. I understand LSU is not a very good defense. They're certainly not an elite defense, to be very clear. And I think Ole Miss is going to move the ball and they're going to score points. But can LSU match what South Carolina did? Can LSU at home, night game, Tiger Stadium, hold Ole Miss to 27? If they can, LSU is going to win that football game. But you see, Kentucky is not a good offensive team. They're physical, but not a good offensive team. And neither is South Carolina. Despite what LSU fans may think based on what they saw from South Carolina in Columbia back in week 3, South Carolina ripped off 2 long runs against LSU. They put together 1 sustained drive, the opening drive of the game. After that, 2 long runs was about it. I think Ole Miss is a much better team than South Carolina, but I think LSU's offense is a problem for Ole Miss. I think LSU's offense is going to move the ball and is going to score points. And if the LSU defense can find a way to hold Ole Miss to 27, just keep under 30, I think LSU is going to win this game. I'll give you a pick later in the week, but I'll also point this out to you as well. I am a big believer in not just who you play, but when and where you play them. Ole Miss has played 6 consecutive games. When they come to Baton Rouge, it will be their 7th consecutive week of playing football. It will be their 3rd consecutive SEC game, and it will be back-to-back road conference games. They will have played Kentucky, at South Carolina, at LSU. LSU, meanwhile, will have played South Alabama, had an open date to get rested, to get healthy, and to prepare for Ole Miss, and then welcome in the Rebels. The spot on the schedule matters. It's one of the reasons why, if you're an LSU fan, you've not been happy with me all summer and spring and offseason when I've said, I think LSU is going to lose in College Station. That's a brutal spot for LSU. LSU's got to play Ole Miss, then go at Arkansas, then go at Texas A&M, back-to-back road conference games. Tough spot. Don't love it for LSU. This spot, LSU coming off a bye, rested, healthy, while Ole Miss is now playing its 7th consecutive week, its 3rd consecutive conference game back-to-back on the road. And I just watched them play South Carolina, where their elite receiver Trey Harris left with injury, where the aforementioned Walter Nolan and J.J. Pegues left with injury, an offensive line that has already been battered and tattered this year. I think it's a tough spot for Ole Miss coming to Baton Rouge. I don't have a pick on the game yet. I'll give that to you later in the week. But before the season started, I picked LSU because of the spot on the schedule, not because I thought LSU was dramatically better than Ole Miss. I do not think LSU is dramatically better than Ole Miss. But sometimes the spot on the schedule matters. Ask Vanderbilt and Alabama. Maybe LSU's catching Ole Miss just the right time to launch their season into the second half. We'll be talking about it all week. Monday, Brian Kelly meets with reporters. We'll have a full report here. Later in the week, we'll have our crossover episode on Thursday with Locked on Ole Miss. Looking forward to that. Y'all, Tigers and Rebs, game week is here, and I'm excited for it. We'll have you covered. Hey, if you are, by the way, thank you for making us your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, you can always go check out my buddy Chris Gordy on Locked on SEC. Chris Gordy holds no punches. LSU guy, by the way. The best conference in college football. Find Locked on SEC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Hey, if you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you are on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you every day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.